Hello, bikepackers, and those of you who are adventure curious. I thought I'd put together a video that would describe how to get to the Thru-Rider or any bikepacking trip on a plane. So how do you go about preparing your bike for transport and getting it to the event you're going in? So the first thing I would recommend is you need to get a bike box. Well, first, actually, let's go back a step. First thing I'd recommend is you need to know how to disassemble your bike and put it back together, right? So make sure you know how to do that. I'm assuming you can at this point. So the first step would be we're gonna go get a bike box, and I would recommend getting a bike box that's designed for an e-bike. And I'm talking about the e-bikes that you pedal, but it has electric assist, because the boxes are a little more sturdy, maybe a little wider, a little stronger, and get a bike box that's maybe one size bigger than your bike. Just because your bags do take up extra room. Somehow I have to get everything from that bike into that box. So cue the time lapse. So the things you need to consider when you're packing your bike is there's certain things you cannot fly with. So one of them would be a CO2 cartridge. If you have a CO2 cartridge in your box and it goes through the scanner, they're gonna have you take your bike box apart and find that thing and take it out. You have to leave it behind. And the other thing too, and it happened to me last year, I didn't even think about it, but in my cooking kit, I've got a small little lighter, and I never took one in 2024, but in 2025, I forgot to take it out of my cooking kit. So I had to rip my whole bike box apart, as well as my cooking kit apart there in the airport, take that lighter out and leave it behind. So avoid those hassles and don't get caught with those things in your bag. The other thing too is they are gonna most likely, at least in my experience going through the Toronto Airport Pearson, they are going to scan your box, and in my case, both years, I had to take my bags out of my box, and then they individually scan the bags. So be prepared. Make sure you give yourself lots of time at the airport, because you're most likely going to have to do that. So reduce your stress knowing that you're going to have to do it, and make it easier on yourself. So when you're doing your check-in at the airport, also keep in mind that you're really not supposed to be putting clothes and luggage and stuff like that inside your bike box, but because your bike is your luggage, you have to. But when you go through when you're doing the check-in, don't make the mistake I did. I actually said, oh, my luggage is in my bike box. And they frowned upon that. They did not like that at all, because I guess people are trying to scam, or they think people are trying to scam for the weight. But as I pointed out, I said, the bike is my luggage. All my bags are on that bike. That is how I transport my bike. So anyways, the person rolled their eyes and went back to doing their paperwork. So once you get to Calgary, if you're going to do the Tour-Divide or the Great Divide mountain bike route, there's a few different ways of getting to Banff. One is you could assemble your bike in the airport and ride to Banff. I would probably take 2 nights to do that, or 1 night to do that, I should say. It's a good way of shaking out the ride and making sure everything's working in good order. But the other way you can do that is you could, if you're traveling with a bunch of people, you could rent a car. But both years that I've done it, I've used the Banff Airporter service, which is a shuttle service that goes from Calgary to Canmore and then on to Banff. So to get if you're staying in Canmore, the distance or the time is 1 hour and 20 minutes on the transporter to get there. So it's not too bad. And to get to Banff, it's 2 hours. It's a pretty scenic drive anyway, so make sure I'd recommend sitting on the left side of the bus when you're going out to Banff, because that's where the mountains are going to mostly be on your left, and you get to see the foothills. So it's quite a spectacular drive. And the good news is, if you check in the description, there is a discount code for the Banff Airporter. The folks there gave me a discount code that I can give to you. I don't get any commission for that. It's just goodwill for you, and you save a few dollars, and they're very flexible. If your flight's late, you just notify them that your flight's late, and they'll put you on the next bus. And they're really accommodating. The drivers are prepared for it. They know how to load the bikes on the bus. They treat them with care. They know why you're there, so it's a good service, so I would encourage you to use that. Just one less thing you have to worry about. I guess one more note is if you're staying in Canmore, keep in mind that it's 24 kilometers or 15 miles between Canmore and Banff, and it's primarily uphill. So if you're riding to Banff, it's you're going to put 24 kilometers in your legs just to get to the start line if you're staying in Canmore. So if at all possible, try to stay in Banff or the campground real close to Banff. It'll just make your life a little easier, especially on day one, because you're already going to be nervous with anticipation, and yeah, no sense being stressed out any more than you need to. I almost forgot to mention carry-on. So I took a 10-liter collapsible backpack with me, and I kept all my expensive items like my electronics with me when I was on the plane going through the airport, because it's one thing to have if your bike doesn't make it to the other end, that's an expensive loss. But if you had all your electronics in there as well, that'd also be an expensive loss. And also gives you the option to keep your batteries and stuff with you where they're handy, and at least you're secure in having your electronics with you. So if you're heading out to do the Tour Divide or the Great Divide mountain bike route, or any bikepacking trip, try to keep your stress level to a minimum. Make sure you understand that you're going to have some bumps at the airport with having to scan your bike box and stuff like that, especially if you're going through Pearson here in Toronto. And enjoy it and good luck, and I hope you have a great adventure. Talk to you soon.